Viewers, good evening and welcome to Inside the Tobago, where we go beyond the beaches. I am your host, Lavian Cupid, and as always, it is a pleasure to be seated here before you. Well, we are days away, just 3 days shy from the People's National Movement internal election right here on the island. This follows their January 12th crushing defeat, where they lost all 15 seats. And then we know last year, that's what, April 28th, just a year, almost a year exactly, that landslide defeat in the general election. So the People's National Movement is on a bid to rebuild their party. We keep hearing words like rebuilding, unity, pulling everybody together. So this is what the mission seems to be here on the island. So we would have had quite a show put together for you this evening, where, of course, we reached out to both contenders for the post of political leader. That would be the former MP for Tobago West, that's Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis, and the former minority leader and area representative for Darrell Spring, Wim Kelvin Morris, to sit down and have a conversation with us, not together, independently, but of course, let us know what the ground is saying, what the PNM ground is saying, what their vision and mission is, how the campaign has been thus far. Unfortunately, tonight we only speak with Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis. Reached out to Mr. Morris on Tuesday after he would have confirmed with us, yes, he would be here. But then he said to me, Lavian, moving forward, I am managing my public discourse. I'm not very sure what that meant, but there was quite an interesting conversation interview he had earlier that same day on I-95.5, on that very popular show that we all probably grew up on or even love, that I still listen to, with none other than those two gracious gentlemen, that's Dale and Tony. So quite a revelation was made thereafter when Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis had her interview on that very same program. And then we had a cancellation, but the show must go on. So we speak to Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis tonight. But here on Inside Tobago, of course, we have more conversations to have. But next week, Thursday, as always, we're going to be right here on my page and also on Now TV Tobago, where we stream every Thursday night at 7:30 p.m., whether we are having national discourse, Tobago discourse, or we're having some direct discourse with an individual. So as we head into this conversation with Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for liking and sharing. Thank you so much for all the people that meet me on the streets in the supermarket and say, Lavia, and I'm not hearing you. We need to have these conversations. Well, guess what? I'm right here on my page, right here on the Social Gazette, Lavian Cupid at the Social Gazette, and on Now TV Tobago, where we have those direct conversations, those decisive questions being asked. All right, so we'll be right back as we speak with Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis.
Welcome to Now TV Tobago, your new home for reliable, credible, and in-depth storytelling. We're here to share Tobago stories with accuracy, integrity, and with the context you deserve. From current affairs and politics to culture, community, festivals, our heritage, sports, and climate, we bring to you the stories that matter and the people who make Tobago truly one of a kind. When you need reliable information, you can count on us. Now TV Tobago. Clarity, context, connection. Your Tobago, your stories now.
Viewers, thank you so much for staying with us and welcome back to Inside Tobago. I'm your host, Lavian Cupid, and as promised, before we went for that break, we are talking People's National Movement internal election, cut it for this Sunday. Yes, this coming Sunday, that is April the 26th. And of course, we will be keeping you updated on that day as scores come in. But as I told you before, this evening we are speaking to Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis. She is one of the candidates running for political leader of the Tobago Council, former member of parliament for Tobago West. Shamfa, thank you so much and welcome to Inside Tobago, where we talk all things beyond the beaches here.
Thank you, Lavian. It's a real pleasure to sit with you once again and have a little chit chat. I'm excited.
All right, nice. So PNM internal election, all eyes on the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement. Nomination was just a few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago. And so we are in the last home stretch of your campaign. How are you feeling right now? I know we would have had a conversation earlier. I know you headed to the east side of the island. So how are you feeling in this moment? What are your thought process in this moment of your campaign?
I feel calm. I feel confident. I feel very encouraged. Over the past couple weeks, I had been making connections and reconnecting with people. Many members across Tobago West, which are really my people, have been their representative for the past 10 years. And Tobago East, the reception and the support coming out of Tobago East has been so much better than I expected because I hadn't been the MP Ayana Webster Roy was. So, when I first decided to go up and, walk, spend the day and so on, I wondered, what would the reception be like in the East? But the reception has been quite positive. They know me, they know my brand, they feel the connection because in the past there are some persons who have come to the Tobago West office for different programs that were offered and delivered through my ministry. For instance, National Commission of Self-Help. I provided athletic scholarships and support to athletes and the community groups. And many of the programs that I started in the ministry in Trinidad, I always ensure that Tobago benefited. So programs like Empower TT, where we work with unemployed men and help them to get skills and to be mentored by older, more seasoned men, and then assign them to jobs and training programs and so on. I know a lot of the students and their parents. Project like Boss Lady Project, where we work with unemployed women and equip them with a skill and drive them towards entrepreneurship. And in the cases where we had outstanding participants, give them a grant so that they can start their own business. I choose
So
sport.
all of this would have been part of Shamfa on the ground.
Of
Because
course.
I want to dive into that on the ground aspect, but even before we get into that, I want to talk a bit about just your campaign, because for a person like me in the media looking on, we pay very much particular attention to the campaign, and I see you made almost a particular emphasis to have a peaceful type campaign, a clean type campaign. Even one, I don't know if is it that you were trying to involve everyone. I saw you would have sent out a welcome to open your forum, open your meetings, come meet the candidates, the different independence candidates, and even the candidates on Team Unity. This is particularly what you were trying to achieve, or is this something that you end up having to shift to on your campaign trail?
Oh no, for me, it's a very deliberate and principled decision, very conscious decision to run a clean campaign, no mudslinging, a type of campaign that speaks to peace and uniting our party. I think the party has been through enough trauma, enough division, and it is important for us to find a way to bring people together. So I started by not having a slate. I don't want to be a part of a slate. I don't want to have a slate of my own, because slates tend to divide people. It tends to draw lines that these are my friends, this is my clique, and this is who I want to work with. These are the only persons I see fit to make decisions and to lead the party. Everybody needs to have a space at the table and be involved in the decision making process. So keeping the campaign clean and all inclusive is important to me. I believe that the persons who are best suited for every position, whether or not you're a part of a clique or you stand alone, or you might be a little person in your corner, you're educated or trained in a specific area, or you want to try your hand at one of these offices, you should feel confident to come to the fore and know that there's a place there for you. I think oftentimes we tend to confine leadership positions to persons who have a degree or persons who are part of a certain clique this is an all-inclusive party. It's supposed to be an all-inclusive party. And I think that anybody who has the desire to do the hard work, the next chapter for us is going to be hard. It's not going to be any walk. It's not going to be a walk in the park. We are at an all-time low. We've lost a couple of elections well. And the people are asking for something new, fresh. They want new ideas, new people, not the usual cliques that we're accustomed to. And cliquism has not helped us in the past. We've seen what that has done to the party in the past. And I think in going forward, we have to be about what we speak about. So if you're talking about unity and this party is for everybody, then let's start right now. So I took it upon myself to open my platform on my campaign for all candidates, whether you're competing against me or not, whether you're part of a slate or not. Come talk to PNM people. My people are your people
Right.
are my people. And if we're serious about uniting after April 26th, then we must hold hands and walk shoulder to shoulder right now. Don't wait for April 26th.
But even as you say, space for everybody, your opponent or the other candidate running for the position of political leader, that's a former area representative for Darrow Spring Wim, former minority leader Kelvon Morris. You know, I would have heard him, and I'm pretty sure everybody would have heard him on various platforms, and he speak of the my very dear friends there on I-95 would have put it over nicely when they said the big Sawatis in the PNM, which would be the former political leaders. So we're talking about Kelvin Charles, we're talking about Tracy Davidson, Celestine. We hear names like Huey Cadet and Clarence Jacob, etc. That he has their support. I have two questions on that for you. One, have you engaged in conversations with them? And I'm asking that because I know that you all would have had meetings where you attended each other's meetings. So I'm not sure if they would have been present or even there was some sort of reaching out on either side. And how do you feel seeing that he has the support of all these big Sawatis, as my friend Dale Enoch would have put it? Do you feel threatened? How do you feel about your chances at the polls come this Sunday?
I value every member of the People's National Movement, no matter what level you sit or stand. So whether you're a stalwart, a senior office holder, or a man on the ground doing the walking, making the puffs and the sandwiches when we have event, I value every single member. And I think every single member wants to feel heard. They want to be seen. They want to feel respected. I don't think that leadership is about endorsement. It's about trust. It's about credibility. It's about connection. And I think that that is where my strength lies. The people trust me. They think I'm credible, competent, and experienced. You understand? So I have spent the time on the ground in my time as a member of parliament. And when I was the lone opposition senator, I was the voice for Tobago for those 5 long years in the central government until we got to a place of winning the Tobago East and West seats. So I have relationships with everyone. I've reached out to stalwarts like Mr. Orville London, Stanford Calendar. I reached out to Kelvin Charles when I decided to run for leadership. I reached out to all the former political leaders, including Tracy Davidson, Celestine, Ansel, Dennis. Of course, you have at the meetings, I would have opened up and allowed the team unity and the independents to come to my meeting, and I've gone to their meeting also where persons like Huey Cadet was there, and of course Clarence is running on the team unity slate. I don't feel intimidated at all. At the end of the day, we are one people's national movement, and we all should be in it to win it. I treasure the advice and the guidance of the seniors and the stalwarts. I also respect the recommendations and the advice from those on the ground who go out there and feel and hear and touch people in real situations. I think everybody's perspective matter. We also have to admit that there are some things we were doing the old way that we can't continue to do. So there's a difference between seeking advice from the elders and taking instruction, because we also have to trust the persons who are out there in their daily lives interacting. We have to respect what comes from them too. And I think as a leader, you have to take into consideration the advice, take into consideration the reality of the current situation, make sure everybody is involved and everybody benefits. Oftentimes, we have suffered from top-down decisions and top-down behavior where the executive says this or this stalwart says this, so it's that. No, we have to make sure everybody's involved and comfortable and they understand and they are fully on board. My husband liked to say, a man convinced against his will is still unconvinced. Yes. So I believe in a bottom up approach, respecting the elders, respecting the stalwarts, but also respecting and embracing the man on the ground who has been doing the work. I've sat at the feet of persons like Ashton Beckles. I started working in Tobago after I returned home from college. As a matter of fact, I was a checker on the Plymouth seawall out at Great Street there. I worked as an writing policy and so on and studying policy with at Frank Roberts' office in the office of the chief secretary. I then went on to developing social policy in the division of family and social development. And then I was an international trade analyst in the division of planning. So I have long experience here in the Tobago House of Assembly. I've sat at the feet of persons like Ashton Beckles, who was an advisor in the office of the chief secretary. And when I was a senator, I worked hand in hand with Mr. Orville London because he had a style where it was very inclusive, that the ones who sat at central government, and at that time it would have been me, I would have been invited to meetings to understand the Tobago perspective, to ensure that we're singing from the same hymn sheet. When Mr. London left, that kind of inclusive practice ended for me as an MP. And there are so many stories that I can tell. When I moved from Division of Planning, I went over to the YES program in the Division of Finance and worked under the leadership of Dr. Anselm London, developing the YES program, working as the head person in the unit, the YES program. I've sat at the feet of Neil Wilson in his capacity of chairman of the EID Cut board, where I was a director on the board. So I have lots of stories to tell as it relates to working with elders, taking advice and respecting their contributions. And I believe that even today, our stalwarts and our seniors ought to be respected and saluted. But that doesn't mean that you have to take for granted the man on the ground. I think everybody's perspective is very important, especially as we seek to re-engineer and rebuild the party at this point in time. So I hear persons trying to spread a talk like I'm anti-seniors. And I think that's pushing it, that's stretching it. I think my experience and my history, my record shows, yes, I'm willing to listen. Yes, I'm willing to learn. Yes, I respect the contributions and I want to be respected too. But it's not only the elders and the bigwigs who matter. The man on the ground have been crying out for that kind of attention and that kind of respect also. And coming from where I come from humble beginnings. Yeah. And for me, I have to be able to see those situations experienced by the man on the ground and respect their contribution too. Just because you don't have a degree or you're not a senior person in a division or in the party mean that you don't have common sense and you don't know what you want for the party. I know that the average man on the ground knows what he wants for the party, and he too should have a say in choosing who he wants to represent him as a candidate. That should not be left only to the big wigs or the seniors.
Right.
We take into consideration everybody's perspective and we do what is in the best interest for our party and our people, those on the ground, those high up, and those who are yet to come, because we are
Right.
working for the future generation also.
You mentioned quite a number of THA initiatives that you would have worked on and divisions that you worked within.
Yes.
I want to write on this a little bit because there's been a sort of narrative that Shamfa is parliament. Shamfa is parliament and not THA. But you just listed quite a few areas within the THA, multiple, I think about 3 that you worked on, and projects and policy that you worked with.
Right.
There's also been a narrative, and I'm saying that these narratives have been based on interviews that have been had throughout this campaign that I would have seen for myself, heard for myself. So this is not anybody say, this is what I'm saying here on the Social Gazette. And there is a narrative that Shamfa is not only not versed or experienced or involved in the THA, but even questions about how much you were on the ground over the past 5 years. So I want to speak specifically to that. So how much do you feel that you have contributed to the THA and that you would be able to for the THA, but also the questions surrounding you being on the ground over your tenure? Is it that it was office over service, or how would you deal with that?
Right. I know I like to say the people who know me know me. And if you check my record, whether it's on social media or you talk to people on the ground, I've been here working, connecting, delivering to the people of Tobago. And I can list a host of projects, whether it's airport and that kind of thing. But for me, my delivery and my leadership rests not only in titles that I have held, but in the impact that I have made through programs here in Tobago, utilizing whatever I deliver in the ministry in Trinidad, making sure that Tobagoanians benefit. So I have been walking the ground. A lot of times people say, oh my God, I wonder how you do it or how you did it. Going back and forth each week to serve the constituency. I'm going to people's wakes. I'm financing people's education, and I'm delivering support for back to school, food support in and out of Christmas and election season. So those who know me know me. Even persons on the other side would send people to me and say, go buy Shamfa, she will help you. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's the only credit I want. Go buy Shamfa, she will help you. You don't have to know anything else about me other than come by me. And once I'm in a position to help, I help. So to say that I have not been on the ground, I come from the ground, call me an earthworm. You understand? I have been here working, walking, leading, loving, learning from people. And I think that that is what has kept me relevant to today. There are those who would like to bury me, as they say, or end my political career. But you see, the connection with the people, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. And I think if you look at my record compared to my challenger's record, he would say, okay, he's been on the ground in WIM area. But I have been walking and leading and loving and learning across Tobago West and in some parts in Tobago East too, because as an opposition senator, I pretty much represented everyone. I've been going to the events, participating in the different programs, delivering the programs here, visiting people at their homes. If you lose your memory for a moment, I tried to keep record over the years to the point that I was one of the first politicians in Tobago to be making reels and so on, because I know the amount of people. People like to say, she ain't do nothing for we and we don't see she. So I started keeping record in order to show and to help them to remember that I've been right there with you. That has been my motto, and I still remain right there with the people I love and serve. So anybody who tried to say that I wasn't on the ground doing my work and delivering to the people, I think that's a very desperate cry. And those who know me, and the records still stand to this day.
As you said, desperate cry. Your challenger, Kelvin Morris, a former minority leader, he revealed that, well, he said that you revealed a confident conversation between the both of you. Confidential, yes. Conversation yes. Between the both of you. And I know that you would have also had a previous conversation, but I want to ask you for clarity, what exactly was that confidential conversation that you all had?
I'll tell you something, Lavian. I've been deliberate about keeping a clean campaign, respecting every single candidate, and just being open and honest. I tell my camp we ought to be right and righteous in what we are doing. There's no room for mudslinging or dragging the other candidate. You see, I've been listening to the narrative, and one side would want to go out there and say all sorts about me. And I I'm supposed to sit down and allow the lie to fly. As a woman, when you stand up for yourself, it's easy for people to say that you're aggressive, yes, or you don't like to listen, or nobody wants to work with you. And women in politics often face that challenge time and time again. You know, I want to go back to the stalwart question. I went to a stalwart because they say go sit at the feet of the stalwart. And I went to a stalwart and he asked, why are you running for political leader? You should be running for lady vice chair. That is what the position of lady vice chair is for. Let the man run for political leadership. And so just because I'm a woman, I'm not supposed to aspire to political leadership. And so as much as we listen to the guidance of and the advice of stalwarts, we also have to use our common sense and look at what is relevant in this time and age. Especially he was very old, so I guess it's a very archaic type of thinking. But for me, that is not relevant today. So I was able to respond and tell him it's a democracy, and we are all free to offer ourselves in the same way you are free to vote for who you want to vote for. So you've sent for me, I've come. I'm thankful to you for being honest and frank. However, on election day, you go out and you exercise your right to vote for whoever you want. That doesn't mean you're going to get me to step down. There are a couple persons who say, step down or run for lady vice chair. That's not me. And I have to remember that I'm not only representing myself in this, I'm representing girls and women. And I ought to inspire and motivate them to let them know that when they go to school and they study their book, it's not in vain, that they can do what they want to do and be what they want to be. So I want to return to the conversation where it is believed that I shouldn't have revealed that we were having talks due to a poll that was requested by Mr. Morris himself. And so there's a narrative going around saying, oh, Kelvin was the lone person in the Tobago House of Assembly, so therefore I shouldn't challenge him. It should be like an easy path for him just to go on to being leader. And leader is there for anyone and everyone. And I am not supposed to be made to feel ashamed or receive a slap on my wrist for wanting to run for leader. A matter of fact, when I made my announcement for leadership, I was the only person who was interested in being leader at that time. Everywhere I go from community to community and my different meetings, people say in the party, hey, we have been through enough as it relates to division and confusion. Why couldn't you guys just have a conversation and determine how we can do this
But there
more
was a
peacefully?
conversation and an
So
agreement.
then, after being asked that so many times, and then on the media, I can't lie to the media. I can't lie to the people about this. I have to say, we have been trying to talk for some time. A matter of fact, I would even go further from January. In October of last year, I received a call from Kelvin himself. And we were asked within the party, well, who do you think we can win with? And so on. And he said, he called me and he said, I didn't even select myself. I selected you. I had a conversation with Petal and we selected you because we think that you're most suited for leadership at this time. And he felt like he needs some more years of training. So that was October of last year. Anyway, I put that to rest. In January, when we lost, we were called to a meeting by the general secretary. And he said, you know what, at election time in the PNM, we tend to go through, it could become chaotic because we are now doing the one man, one vote. And I don't think we've totally mastered that just yet. So it's important for us to have the relevant conversations towards making sure that it's peaceful. And he recommended that in the most recent polls, I would have been seen as the most wanted politician at that time, a person most suitable to be political leader or most popular among the people. And Kelvin said at that meeting, well, a poll is a snapshot in time, right? And if a poll is a snapshot in time, then any information you collected last year is old. I think we need a new snapshot. And then he said, we made an agreement there that whatever the results of the poll were, we would respect it and go by that. So whoever wins the poll, that person would run for political leader, and the next person would run for chairman. So there wouldn't be any unnecessary friction and trauma for all people. And that was our agreement. And when the poll results came out, he said he doesn't want to run for anything. He's considering migrating. And on that day, Lawrence was in that conversation. He said, okay, let's talk tomorrow when everybody's cool. And I reached out and I didn't get a response from Lawrence and I didn't get a response from him. So I started keeping copious record. And when I WhatsApped him, he said, I've done some thinking and I'm not interested in running for any position. This is him talking to me on March 2nd. And I said, well, he's not running for any position on the executive, but he's going to remain a member. And I said to him, hey, I hope you reconsider because I think you're a valuable asset and you have an important role to play as we rebuild our party. He didn't respond on the 3rd, on the 4th. So on the 5th, when I was interviewed for International Women's Day, at that time, to my knowledge, and based on me reaching out, trying to see, hey, can we talk? And you not responding after you responded on March 2nd, saying, well, hey, you're not interested. I made my announcement. So I said, I'm interested in running for political leader. And interestingly, a couple of days after, I saw he placed on social media something looking like checkers or chess saying, when I play to win. Stay tuned for my announcement. So when I saw that, I reached out to persons who may be able to help us to convene a conversation.
Right.
And I finally got a mutual friend. And it's only when we met with the mutual friend the following Monday or Tuesday night, he said, well, he is considering running because he has some powerful people behind him and he doesn't want to disappoint them. And those persons were people like, the people you see on his train now, Tracy Davidson Celestine, Kelvin Charles, Huey Cadet, Nadine Stewart Phillips, Karen Jacob, who's also on his slate. And I said, well, you should have said that the whole time. And he started speaking about, I just when I heard him talk about inconsistencies or irregularities or things that he had challenges with the poll. But it is you who asked for the poll. You asked for the poll. And he said, well, he was not sure. There was no conversation about the population size of the poll and that type of thing, who's going to be polled. And I'm saying, why did you ask for a poll and to participate in the poll and wait on the results of the poll and didn't ask those questions then?
Right.
I, just like you, we had an agreement that whatever the poll brings, we will go by it. And if as it based on your ambition or whoever is encouraging you and telling you to do this or do that, you've decided to change your mind, then I shouldn't have to hear that on social media that, okay, you intend to make an announcement and here I am looking for people to talk to us, to say, hey, let's talk. Because let me tell you, it's not about position for me. It's not about position for me. I am going to serve my party, and more important than my party, serve the people of Tobago from any corner I sit. I support the People's National Movement because of the dreams, the vision, the mission that Dr. Eric Williams set out to do, and he asked us to be a party of discipline and to treat with people in truth and to care for people. And as long as the People's National Movement stands for that, I'm going to be with the People's National Movement. We are treading down a slippery slope where we are sliding away from our values. And I must say it is most concerning. And that is why I've stepped forward in a time like this to help us to return to our values, to help us to be disciplined and to build our party in a most difficult time. If we do not stand by our values and our core vision and mission, then we would destroy the very core of the party. Even in this leadership challenge, you don't want to break it up while trying to build it, so we have to be truthful, we have to be factual, we have to be caring, compassionate, and try to unite the party to the best of our ability. And if you're out there in Bethel Village, as was done earlier this week, going from house to house, maligning me and ill speaking me, and telling people that I have done nothing and delivered nothing to Tobago.
And this is what's been done by your opponent.
This is being done by the PNM telling the PNM this. So telling PNM members this.
Right.
But I'm like, you are the same people who were last year walking with me, encouraging people to vote for me, telling people how nice I am, and telling people how much I have delivered to Tobago. So how come this year I haven't delivered anything? So for me, it's not about personalities. It's about maintaining order. It's about maintaining discipline. It's about treating each other with care. And I have told my camp, do not respond to any of that
But I have to
maligning.
ask though, do you feel hurt or betrayed? How do you feel? Because you sat with comrades
Mhm.
after a crushing defeat, two crushing defeats consecutively, and then you were on the campaign trail. I mean, you came out in the latter half. I think your first appearance was in Plymouth, and your first appearance on a PNM podium would have created a shift in the atmosphere for the People's National Movement, to the point that it was no lie that there were shaking boots in your opponent's camp, right? That the PNM was going to get, Shamfa was on the trail, and Shamfa was on the podiums, and she was bringing fire, and PNMites who were in a hole somewhere came out, and they wanted to know night after night if Shamfa was going to be speaking, because she was igniting something that died. So you supported in that point, and then after the defeat, you came together, you had a conversation, and then in the end, there was changes that you were not made aware of. Only through social media you picked up on something. You feel hurt or
Interestingly,
betrayed?
Lavian, all those things you just mentioned, it's interesting that you recognize and identify that, but I know many PNMites who would not agree that that is the case, So I try to uh, maintain a principled position that this is not about personalities. And as much as people try to make it personal, I try to look at the vision we have for the PNM, the future of the PNM, and caring for the people on the ground whose lives and livelihood depend on the PNM being stable, once again settling down and minding the business of the people. People ask me, do you feel a sense of betrayal? And I said, no. I try to look, I'm very deliberate about keeping things positive, keeping it positive. And I try to look for the goodness in people. So I have said, for me, I interpret his move as having a change of heart. I've been a young person in leadership before. I came into politics. Before that, I was in the Tobago Youth Council. So I know what it is to be a young person. You want to run for leadership. You're ready to go out there and show the world what you've got. So when he said he had a change of heart, I felt like, okay, I understand the man want to run. So all I said to him is, you should have just said that rather than taking us through this whole long
A change of
strange thing,
heart.
So I said, okay,
I'm
he
a
had a change of heart, no
competitive
problem.
woman. I feel as though Shamfa is either trying to protect the People's National Movement, or she's trying to protect Kelvin in this moment. Because I don't know. I don't know. I feel is the competitive country girl in me, because I would not have labeled that as a change of heart. Were you trying to protect the PNM in this moment? You're trying to protect Kelvin in this moment? Because I
Lavian,
would have seen comments with my own two eyes that said deception. But here you
well,
are saying
people
change
say
of
that.
heart.
People say that. But for me, I'm a lover. And I believe that I'm a lover of people. If I didn't love people, I couldn't be in this work so long, experiencing the things that I've been through, and the challenging situations I've overcome over my 16 years in frontline politics. So I really try to see the best in people. I think God created us in love, and our default position has to be love. You know, so I try to see the good, and it's not about protecting him or protecting the party. Of course, I want to protect him. That's my brother. No matter what happens on April 26th, that's my brother. I respect the work that Kelvin did uh, in the Tobago House of Assembly over the years. Kelvin worked his electoral district so well that I didn't have to walk Darrell Spring Wing, because I know Kelvin was holding me down in Darrell Spring Wing. I want you to understand the kind of relationship that exists and the kind of respect that I have for fellow PNMites and for him. Being the lone, he was a default minority leader in that he was the only person that won his seat. So you had to be minority leader. But he stepped into that role and he did his work. And it reminded me of when I was the lone PNM senator, the lone Tobago senator. I had to be that voice. But to the point that I stood up and defended Tobago more than the member of parliament for Tobago East, more than the member of parliament for Tobago West. I was on the committee for internal self-government, fighting the fight, carrying the thing on my back. So I've been out here working at the ground level in the Tobago House of Assembly, working as an opposition senator when the people in town didn't even want to see the PNM people walk through town. They used to boo us. Going through the rigors of what it means to be in opposition, but keeping hope alive, listening to the people and delivering to the people, being that voice and that ambassador, that worker for the people. And I've taken, so people say she's a fighter, but I entered in opposition. And that is where I learned courage and confidence. And I took that into my stewardship as member of parliament for Tobago West. I used to tell myself, there is no problem that cannot be solved. There must be a way that I can direct people to getting help and so on. So that is where relationships were built. So yes, I must protect Kelvon as I must protect every right-thinking PNMite. I must protect my party because I know my party stand for that which is good. And for me, as a woman, as a human being, I must also respect myself and not sit down and allow people to spread nastiness about me and I don't come out and defend myself or speak the truth so that the people have the fact, because transparency, accountability, and responsibility are all very important values in leadership. I'll tell you something, no matter what happens on Sunday night, whether I win or lose at the polls, I walk away from this thing a winner. The lessons I would have learned, the way I would have stood up and stood in the race while there were some old senior men telling me, step out, don't run, withdraw. Yes, I stand as a winner, getting the opportunity to learn so much more about my party and about my people, about those who mama guy you, about those who pushing you to do this and pushing you to do that. Let me tell you, there are lessons that I have learned on this journey that I couldn't have learned if I didn't enter this race. I can write a book. I have lots of stories to tell, especially to little girls and women standing up in a male-dominated type of profession. I walk away a winner, having a better understanding of the PNM, how it operates, what we need to protect, and what definitely needs to change. So I stand ready and responsible for leadership.
So then my question now will have to be, so have you spoken to Kelvon since, or what's any conversation and was he feedback, or even the atmosphere now moving into Sunday?
Well, as recent as Sunday past, which is 3 days ago, I was at Kelvon's meeting, because since I opened up my meeting to other candidates, I said it's only right for me to go and, show my face and show some support, because it's important for PNM people to see and know that, hey, I'm not about any animosity. I'm not about any we and them. And let me tell you.
But since this revelation,
since yesterday,
yes.
I haven't spoken to him between yesterday and today. And whenever we speak again, it will always be from a place of love for me, a place of forgiveness, a place of just doing what is right by God, by myself, by the people in the party, and by the people's national movement. You can't want to win so bad that you're willing to mash it up to win, because you would end up winning an internal election, but then you can't win no THA election and you can't win a general election. If you enter from a place of disunity and you're not organized, then you have already lost the campaign or lost the race before it has started. And I think that what is most important to PNM people is love, is togetherness, is cohesion. And I stand on that. And I don't need a position to bring that. People know Shamfa is love. They know that very well.
As you say, you stand on that. And as we get ready to wrap, I want you to tell me, and even, tell the listeners, all of Tobago, we're PNMites, what will leadership under Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis for the People's National Movement look like?
It would look like an inclusive party where everybody can enter, everybody can partake in what the party has to offer, be seen, be heard, feel valued, where we are going to work from the bottom up, making sure that party groups are functional and operating, because party groups are the liaison between the party and the people on the ground in the communities, where persons can get to play a greater role in choosing who represents you as a candidate, where we keep our promises and we pay our debts to the service providers and those who have worked and walked for us. Because if you're not showing love to your own, you can't expect others to feel they're gonna get love home by you if you're not loving up those who in your family. It's about listening to the elders, of course, reaching out to them for advice and working with them, but also making sure that the youth are heard, that
Right.
the women's league and the average man can come to a public day of the opposition leader in Trinidad. If you do that here in Tobago, like I did, whatever services I extended to my constituency that kept me relevant, I am going to do that, which is to have public days for members, help them fill out forms so that they can access government services, make sure that we make the PNM financially stable, raising our own funds, setting standards as it relates to becoming more modern, using technology to communicate and operate the administration of the council. Succession planning. Succession planning. There are too many. We like to say the PNM is about young people and we give young people a chance. Getting to be a youth speaker on a platform is not enough. Putting the young people at the front and letting them talk and saying we have a youth league, that's not enough. We have to empower young people and train them and make them ready to go out there and represent,
Right.
because they are able. If we give the people free education, what make you think they're not able to go out there and represent us and we can vote for them, being confident that we have provided to them quality free education? And for the people who are out there walking and knocking on doors and so on, they are very important too, and they too can represent, because if you're good enough to knock on door, then you're good enough to represent those interests that you have been studying over the past couple of years. So it's about restoring trust. Stand on 6 pillars: restoring trust, rebuilding the organization, uniting the movement, making us financially stable, honoring our past by saluting our elders and our seniors, and archiving our accomplishments, because we like to talk about what we've done, but where can we go to find all this information in one place? And finally, modernizing the movement in every way possible. I also have a 10-step plan for what we are going to do after we win, because getting the party in order is one part, but then we also have to revive, secure, fight for, and stand up for our democracy, which is slowly slipping away, so that we can have free and fair elections, where our institutions can be respected once again. So I have a long-term plan. Just because I've been out of the spotlight for a year, it doesn't mean I was at home watching Netflix. I've been reading, I've been studying, I've been meeting with people, I've been preparing, because I want the PNM to get back to a place of being number one again, and not just winning election, but standing on principles, being disciplined, respecting your members, and bringing that love to Tobago and our party once again.
All right. Well, Shamfa, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Inside Tobago. And we'll be following the election this coming Sunday. And, well, win, lose, or draw, hopefully we will have you back here on the show as we dissect the People's National Movement. All right, viewers, so that's it here for Inside Tobago this evening, as we spoke to People's National Movement candidate for political leader this coming Sunday election, Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis. I really want to apologize again. Kelvin Morris, remember, I did promise he would have been here, but when we reached out to him, he said, Lavian, I am managing my public discourse moving forward. So we're unable to speak with him, but we will be monitoring the election. Next week, Thursday, we'll be right back here on Inside Tobago, where we have more conversations, but the national discourse, where we pay attention to and we speak to experts in various fields. We're talking about political analysts, attorney at law, economists, and we take a look at the United National Congress 1 year in office. Are we winning? How are you feeling? Are you holding a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal? Are you holding nothing at all? We also pay attention to the Ministry of Education. We see the Minister, Michael Dowlett. He said that the first AI textbooks have been released, and we have 3 more coming on stream. This we have right as Sweden, who was the top runner, front runner for technology in schools. They have spent millions in paper textbooks because they are saying that Gen Zs have tested, and this was actually discussion in Congress just last week, that's the United States Congress, that Gen Zs are now testing lower for the first time in history than the generation before. So in diplomatic terms, we are saying that technology in schools is not progressing the intellectual capacity of our children. In colloquial terms, we're raising dunce children. What is happening? What is happening? So is it that the Ministry of Education did not see that report? And we're talking about Sweden. We're talking about Sweden, one of the highest standards of living in the world globally, and they are back to paper textbooks. And now we are saying, well, we promised on the campaign trail that we're going to cut the cost for parents buying textbooks, so you're going to get AI-generated textbooks. But are they going to benefit our society? And this is personal to me because I teach reading from first year to standard 3. And I'm telling you, our children need the help. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to speak to an expert. We're going to have so many more conversations right here on Inside Tobago and on the national discourse. I want to thank you so much. Remember, we stream right here on my personal page, right here, Lavion Cupid at the Social Gazette and Now TV Tobago, 7:30 p.m. every Thursday night. Thank you again so much for joining me. I'll see you next week.
Welcome to Now TV Tobago, your new home for reliable, credible, and in-depth storytelling. We're here to share Tobago's stories with accuracy, integrity, and with the context you deserve. From current affairs and politics to culture, community, festivals, our heritage, sports, and climate, we bring to you the stories that matter and the people who make Tobago truly one of a kind. When you need reliable information, you can count on us. Now TV Tobago. Clarity, context, connection. Your Tobago, your stories now.